In this video, I'll be attempting to create my own Machinist Jack. Although I haven't had much need for one yet, I thought it would be a great opportunity for some more practice on both the lathe and the milling machine. My choice of metal for this build is 1045 bright steel round bar. It measures just over 38mm in diameter. Now I know this is a lot of stick out, but it seemed to spin up very concentric right off the bat. I'll quickly face it, drill the center hole, and then support it with the live center before applying any side load. I plan on keeping as much of the width as possible, so I'm only taking a fraction off the total diameter to remove the surface rust. This is the second time I've used bright steel and I'm still so impressed at the surface finish. I found that on my machine the highest RPM definitely gave the best finish. Here I'm marking out the total length of the base. I decided that the total height for the base would be suitable at 50mm. To my fellow machinists, could you comment down below if there is a better way of removing this live center? Surely using a soft blow hammer isn't the correct way. After loading in a 10mm drill bit, I'm marking out 35mm, which will be the depth of cut in preparation for the future threading of this part. One of my future purchases will be a flood coolant system. For now, I'll just have to settle for a spray bottle and some poor accuracy. At this point in the build, I suddenly felt the comments section tapping away at the keyboard about wearing my ring. I promise that this is the last time that it will be featured in my builds. Now that my finger is free from danger, it's time to run a 14mm drill bit into the previously drilled hole. I don't have a 15mm drill bit to prepare for the M16 by 1mm thread, so I'll finish the hole dimension with a boring bar. To have to spin the boring bar around wasn't a planned move. I honestly think that either I lack the ability to forward think or it's just a lack of experience. This would probably be the third time I've ever set up and used a boring bar ever. Lately I've seen many videos suggesting that countersinking before using a tap helps a lot. I can honestly say that it is 100% correct and it's something I'll continue to do from now on. I've chosen to have 2 threads on this Machinist Jack. The first stage will be minor movements by using an M16 by 1mm thread. The second stage will be an M10 by 1.5mm thread. I've been inspired by other videos and hopefully this will work out in the end. This is my tap follower that I made in my most recent video. I'm absolutely loving this tool and I'm so glad that I followed your suggestions about making one. I was thinking about power feeding the tap, but I chose not to as the threads are so fine and I didn't want to ruin the part that I'd made so far. The squeaking sound that you can hear in my videos is coming from my lathe motor. It's not the internals of the gearbox. If any of my followers know what this sound could be, chuck your suggestions in the comments below. I'd love to get to the bottom of it, but I also don't want to have to disassemble anything unless I have some knowledge prior to doing so. For a little design flair, I attempted to put some knurling at the midpoint of the base of the part of this tool. I soon found that the bright steel didn't want a bar of it and barely anything happened except unnecessary side load to my spindle bearings. I think that a future tool to make would be a scissor knurling tool. If anyone has any reason as to why the knurling didn't work, please let me know in the comments down below. Was it the stick out or was it the density of this metal? And just like that, it never happened. I chose to leave my failure in this video as I appreciate all of your feedback with the projects that I make and also the errors that occur. I felt like after that knurling failure, I didn't want to cause you guys any more trauma with bad parting blade deflection, so I've opted for the bandsaw to part off the base. Check out that shiny finish on this bright steel. I would never claim that I'm very good at what I do, but I can't say that I'm not impressed at how this has turned out without any post cleanup. Now it's on to the second part of this jack. This will be the part that has an external M16 thread paired with an internal M10 thread. I apologise for missing the first few passes. I hadn't properly pressed record, but luckily when I changed the angle of the shot, I then noticed and properly pressed record. Trust me, you didn't miss much. The final dimension of this section will be 16mm in preparation for the M16 thread. If you're new to the channel, you might be thinking that this kind of looks like an aeroplane. Maybe it's just me thinking this. Anyways, this is my handmade die follower. It's yet another tool that I'm so glad that I made. As you previously would have noticed, there was no way that my small carbide parting tool could do a 25mm depth of cut, so it's time to protect my lathe and do some manual labour. With the pilot hole drilled, it's now time to run an 8.5mm drill bit through the centre to prepare for the M10 thread to be cut. After a few heavy cuts, I'll get this down to 10mm in diameter. This will suit the M10 thread that will soon be cut. This time I'll be using the die follower's second function, and that is the auto feed option. This is done by adding a grub screw that will stop it from rotating. Once the die is pushed into the material, it will then be auto fed on its own. I'm now flipping the die around as one side is tapered for starting a thread and the other side is flat, which will allow the thread to end a lot closer to the face of the material. It was at this point in the build where I noticed that the threads really didn't have the precision that I was chasing. One of my subscribers had said that this tap and die set isn't suitable for anything other than thread cleaning and repairing. I'm starting to believe this. If anyone could suggest a set that has higher precision, please let me know in the comments down below. I do agree that single point threading would be probably the best option, but it really doesn't suit my level of ability just yet. Here I've added a washer to space the end section away from the body so that I could be very daring and try again at knurling this section. After starting, I soon regretted my decision. It's at these moments where you're just too deep in it to go back, so I pushed on and I kind of had a satisfactory result. My biggest issue with these projects is the order of process. Right up until this point, I had no intention of knurling the two wind-up sections, but I stupidly had a change of heart. At a first glance, it kind of looks okay, but due to the massive run out, some of the knurling was inconsistent. So I went in for a round 2 and cleaned up the last bit. Looking back at this point of the build, I wished I'd have just stopped and kept the design as it was. But no, I was inspired by Inheritance Machining to be a little daring and create a feature that would lock the threads once a grub screw was wound in. In theory, and as I'd seen it on his channel, it would definitely work. But on FAB LIFE, things aren't as precise, and due to the looseness of the threads, this feature would prove to be difficult to get to function. I'm now using a roughing mill to create a step before passing a 5mm drill bit through this component. This will allow me to tap an M6 thread for the grub screw. For anyone with a keen eye for detail or just signs of that something went wrong, you will notice that below the roughing mill there is rotational markings. These battle scars are from me plunging too far down and then suddenly realizing before too much damage was done. It was only in my last video where I said that I didn't think that I would use a tap small enough to have a convex end. Well, I'm lucky that I designed the tap follower that would include a feature that suited both styles of taps. One last thing to do is to remove about 5mm of thread before the section that will have the slit that will compress and squeeze the threads. A while ago I purchased slitting saw blades and an arbor to suit my mill. I was excited to use them for the first time on this job, but I soon realised that the arbor was incorrect for my machine. So the only thing left to use is my trusty hacksaw, an angle grinder and a multi-tool to get the job done. Hopefully at this point you can see my intentions for this feature. You will also notice that the slit made by my hacksaw wasn't wide enough to allow enough movement to squeeze the threads. The tension felt a lot better, but still wasn't as good as I intended it to be. Maybe in the future I'll remake the thread when I hone in my single point threading skills, but for now this will do. And just like that, after spending a bunch of time on Struggle Street, I still created a tool that I'm mostly proud of. With more time practicing my newfound hobby, I'll surely improve with each project. Now you can see the Machinist Jack fully assembled. You will see that I only added the grub screw section to the second stage. I had all intentions of adding this feature to the base part, but after the struggles I faced with the feature already, I decided that there was no way I would be able to get the base section to squeeze the threads, especially with the lack of thread precision. I thank everyone who has made it this far in the video, and I appreciate it more than you know. I'm simply a hobby machinist who is sharing their journey on YouTube. I hope to see you all in the comments section below. Remember, if you're feeling generous, like, subscribe, and share the hell out of this video. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.